Welcome to Cord Cutting This Week, the podcast, episode number 11, recorded July 18th, 2019. This is the show where we dive into some of the biggest stories that happen in the world of cord cutting in depth with Jess, much more than we can do during our daily ones. If you're watching us on YouTube, we also have an MP3 audio version available on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, and many other popular podcast apps. I'll put a link to it in the show notes down below where you can download the MP3 or go find out your favorite podcasting app, so check that out. So Jess, how have you been this week?
I'm great. I'm settling into the new place. The background's a little more interesting this time around. And yeah, having a good but very busy week. What about you?
It has been a busy week. Amazon Prime Day was kind of crazy. You got all the news happening, which we'll cover, but like the new Air TV, Stir, FCC moving to try to block fees, all kinds of stuff. But the biggest question is, did you get anything for Prime Day?
I did. So I could not say no to the huge deals that they were having on Roku TVs. So I cheated a little bit. I scouted out the deals on Amazon, but then I got a little impatient. I went to Costco and got the exact same deal on a 43-inch TCL Roku TV.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Costco's been having some really big deals. I kind of missed it. I saw it. We went to Costco on Saturday, and they had a 75-inch 4K HDR Roku TV for like $700 some bucks, the lowest I've ever seen one. But it was like ends today, and it was already 6 p.m. at night. So I tweeted about it, but I was like, by the time I get home, write a story, the Costco will be closed almost.
I did the same thing, and it was, I think, like 7:30 by the time I got there that night, and I saw very similar deals, but yeah, just a little too late. But their membership event was awesome.
Yeah, so if you're a Costco member, don't forget to check out their TV deals. I got a couple things. I got a new watch. It was $130 off, one of those little Android Wear watches. Mm-hmm. And then we got this little device that turns my garage door into a smart garage door because it's got a sensor that tells it if it's upside down or if it's right side up to tell if the garage is open or closed. And then you plug in this this little control device into an outlet in your garage, and it will connect to your Wi-Fi, connect to that sensor, and also if you tell it to open or close the garage door, it just beams out the little radio frequency to the garage door to open and close it. So that was $25 on Amazon for Prime Day. So that was an unexpected purchase that was worth it.
Awesome.
So that's it. Love to hear if you bought anything on Prime Day. Leave us a comment on CordCuttersNews.com. Leave us a message on YouTube there. Let us know. But should we dive into the news for the week?
Let's do it.
All right. The FCC wants to block cities from imposing fees on home internet. Now, this particular story raised a lot of questions, so bear with me here real quick as I break this down. The FCC controls the regulations of cable TV, which also controls local government's ability to regulate cable TV. The FCC actually has rules that limits the ability of local governments to put fees on cable TV services. Some local governments have started to take that ability to put fees on the TV side of cable TV to put it on the internet side. The FCC says, no, our rules do not allow for that. Our rules are only for the cable TV. And I found a lot of the arguments about this very interesting, but the base point here is basically the federal government saying you can't put franchise fees, etc., onto the ability for broadband internet customers. A couple reasons. They worry that will limit new broadband companies, right? If I'm bringing broadband internet to your city, now I have to pay the federal government a franchise fee, like we did back in the days of cable, which kind of created a monopoly in cable TV. So the FCC is trying to move away from that to prevent that from becoming a monopoly in internet services. So it's very interesting. I found a lot of people like, oh, they'll just raise your rates anyways. And my thought on this is, so cable's going to raise your rates. Let's not let the local governments raise them too, because there's still sales tax. There's still taxes on internet. Just to keep in mind, this is just preventing them from using this one to apply more fees and taxes there. I don't know. What do you think, Jess?
I think this is really interesting, and after you sent me the link for this, I really dove into this case in Eugene, Oregon, the one that they used to kind of set the precedent for all of this. And then that one, they actually said that, yes, it was allowed. And so now they can tack on this fee, which then goes back to the city. So they're taxing, in this case, it was Comcast. And then Comcast is passing that fee on to the customers, and then that money is going back to the city. So the whole thing was just a little confusing and strange, but kind of a good thing that it happened, because now that's kind of setting the stage for this conversation that I think really needs to happen. I think that it would be really easy for internet fees to get out of control like cable fees, and that's something that we should be trying to prevent.
Yeah, and so basically with the court case, the court said under the current rules of the FCC, local governments can impose the same fees on the internet. Now the FCC is saying, we're going to change that. We're going to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think this is a good thing. I really don't understand that people are like, just allow it, because otherwise if cable companies would just raise their fees anyways. Or if we stop this in Oregon, it's not like cable companies are going to lower the rates. And my argument to that is, let's just not allow that, period. I mean, internet's going to become more expensive to a point until competition becomes a reality. I think 5G, low Earth orbit internet, fixed wireless, fiber, etc. are all going to bring that competition eventually to help force down the price of internet. But let's not make it harder for new internet services to come in. Let's not give Comcast another excuse, right? Let's not give Spectrum another excuse to do this. So I actually think this is a good thing. I think this is a good move by the FCC. One more thing I wanted to touch on is people saying, how can they do this, right? They got rid of net neutrality. Doesn't that mean they can't mess with internet? We want them to. That's the whole net neutrality point, was the argument. Yes and no. So net neutrality, the supposed end of net neutrality moved the control of the internet regulations from the FCC to the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, which is where it was when I cut the cord. FTC historically has regulated the internet. Now, the way the FCC gets involved here is because the franchise rules, etc., were created by the FCC, are managed by the FCC, because the FCC still manages the TV side of cable. That's how the FCC is involved here. So just to be clear on that.
Interesting.
So that's there anything else you want to add?
No, I'm glad that it happened. I think that this was a really good case to show what could happen here. So I think it's just very important and something that we'll definitely keep an eye on.
All right. Why don't you jump into the next story?
Well, I think we actually skipped over our first story, which was about Sling TV and the launch of the 4K Air TV Mini.
You know what?
So
You're right. I had them out of order. I read Jess's story. Now Jess is going to read my story. My apology. I opened them out of order.
Totally fine. That's why we have them all open all the time. So let's talk about Sling TV launching this Air TV Mini. They officially launched it. We've been hearing about this for a while now. And they launched a $79.99 Air TV Mini. And it sounds like a really cool device. So it's a device that runs Android TV. And there's a picture of it on the blog if you want to check out what it looks like. It's, is that a dongle? Is that what that's called? Am I right with that?
A dongle, a stick hybrid, something like that.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a mix between the two. So it's really cool. It's, they call it a powerhouse streaming stick, with more memory and a faster processor than anything else in the category. So that's kind of cool. I feel like this is another great option for people who travel, who want to take their streaming device with them. I love all these really small ones for traveling. I think they're really cool. So I don't know anything about technical specs, to be completely honest, but they are all listed there, so you can see exactly what you're getting with this Air TV Mini. There is a note, you need a black Air TV box to watch locals from your antenna with the Air TV Mini, but whenever you have both of these connected, you can get your locals along with your Sling TV content, both from this device. Yeah,
it's a pretty cool device. So for people listening to us with audio and who haven't seen the story, the new Air TV looks a little bit like, if you remember the Fire TV pendant with the connected little HDMI cable, or the new Chromecast with the connected little HDMI cable. Just a little looks more like the Chromecast, to be honest with you. A little short stubby cable with an HDMI port, and then this little square box at the end of it there. But I'll run over the specs because I completely threw Jess for a loop because I read the stories out of order.
Jess does not know anything about technical specs.
That one's on me. But this new Air TV comes with 2 gigabytes of RAM, You can add 8 gigabytes of flash storage there, or it comes with 8 gigabytes flash storage. What else is interesting? 802.11 AC, the 2 different Wi-Fi ones there, so you got good Wi-Fi on this device. Runs Android TV 9.0, so it's a very current, up-to-date version. And yeah, it does include support for the VP9 4K standard, which most people doesn't matter. What you need to know is it supports 4K streaming on Netflix and YouTube. Would expect more devices too to support that in the future. And yeah, so it's a quad-core processor on it, so it's a decent little device. Not necessarily the most powerful streaming player in the world, I get that, but in a dongle format, in a stick type format, it's a pretty impressive lineup of power on there. It does not include the ability to have a USB tuners. You have to get that black network box there. So it really seems that Sling wants this to be like, hey, you buy the black box for connecting your antenna to it, connected to the Wi-Fi, and then it streams off to all your other TVs. You can buy these much cheaper Air TV dongles. I wish they would get the price down. I think $80 is a little high when you can get a Roku for, you know, 40, 50, $9.99, whatever bucks to do that. So I don't know. I love it. I think this is really targeting the people who we hear. You probably heard this too, Jess. I want to cut the cord, but I want it to be as much like cable as possible.
Yes, absolutely. And
this is as close as we get. It launches into Sling TV. It gives you that Sling TV cable-like user interface on boot up. You don't have to open another app, but it still has full Android TV, which includes Netflix, Hulu, etc. in it. So that's pretty cool. I don't think this is a bad device at all.
Yeah, it looks really neat. I was a little confused about the look of it. That's why I was asking if it was technically called a dongle or if it was a stick. It just looks a little... But I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So to use this, do you have to connect it to the black TV box?
No.
Or can you unplug that and then take it with you and use it like at a hotel?
You do... To watch locals, you need the black box, but you can actually use this without it and just use it as a Roku type streaming player without locals. The question about taking it outside your home, I know on mobile devices, I can access my Sling TV Air TV box outside of the home. I haven't tried that with my Air TV player because it's a player. I just never thought about unplugging it and taking it with me on the road. So that's a question. We've got a review unit on the way. I'll test it out. I have the Air TV black box here in the office. Actually, behind this wall here is our review lab. So I'll take this dongle home and see if it connects. Because I know, like,
I think that's something that people might be interested in.
Yeah, I know, like with the Tableau DVR, it doesn't. Like on my phone and my tablets and my laptop, it will out of home. On my Roku, it doesn't. But this works a little differently. I actually log into an account to make that happen. So let me play around with this, and I'll also ask Sling after this and find out. But I really think this may not be targeted towards everybody. And here's the kind of thing I hear from a lot of people. Why would I upgrade to this device? Why would I get this device if I have a Fire TV, a Roku, etc.? And I don't think you will. I mean, honestly, you won't. But if you're somebody like maybe my parents who are like, we want as close to cable experience as possible, then maybe, yeah, this may be the device for them, right? But if you have everything, I don't think there's a reason to get this. So, I don't know. I do like it, though. I do think this is great because it does address everybody who wants a cable-like experience without the cable cost.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's just neat to see more devices coming out so that we just have kind of more options to play with and see what works.
Definitely. All right. So, shall we continue to the next story?
Sure.
You got anything? All right. So, getting back on the right track with the right stories in the right order. Sinclair's new free streaming service, Stir, hits 1 million downloads and announces plans to add 12 new channels. Well, actually, 2 of them went live since we wrote this story. But I had an opportunity to interview Adam Ware. I apologize, Adam, if I mispronounced that. W-A-R-E, Ware? I hope I'm saying that right. But I had a chance to interview him this week about Stir. And one of the things he told me is Stir is 6 months ahead of schedule. They anticipated at the end of the first year they would hit 1 million downloads. but after just 6 months of streaming, they've hit 1 million downloads. He did announce that they would be launching 10 new channels in the future still, and 2 more very shortly. Well, those 2 additional launched like a couple hours after the press release went off on all this. So he wasn't kidding when he said those 2 would launch pretty quick. And then there's 10 more where they've got a contract, they've set everything up, and they're just creating the channels and coding them, connecting the databases, etc. That over the next few months they'll be rolling out. That takes a little bit longer than you may think it would. There's a lot of security things that when services like Stir partner with something like Buzzard, there's a whole like certification series. I don't know about Stir, but I've talked to people in other that do this for other services. They say one of the biggest time-consuming things is making sure our connections are secure and encoded so that no one's pirating off of that connection.
Oh, that makes sense.
In the early days of piracy, that was a big one. They would figure out what is the like URL to get the backdoor into some of these streams. So he said that's actually one of the biggest ones to make sure that we're not becoming a pirate service, which sounds weird because you're saying, hey, Luke, Stir is free, and you are right, but it's free with ads. They want to make sure their ads are being shown, that you're viewing it through them so they can track it, so they can sell ads to it to cover the cost of running Stir. But I'm very interested in a few things that jumped out to me, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Jess. Number one channel, the city's channel, which is those individually, locally curated channels with local news being the number one thing, followed by Buzzard, the game show network, which I've actually been enjoying watching some classic Press Your Luck. Now they got the new one, but
love it.
The classic No Whammy is the classic. So that was very interesting. The other one that I want to see, maybe this probably shouldn't surprise us, Jess, but 85% of all Stir streaming happens on the Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV, with, according to Adam, the number one device by far being Roku, followed by the Fire TV, with Apple TV way behind. And he actually said Smart TV's catching up. Does any of that surprise you at all?
Not even a little bit. We know now that Roku is just such a popular option, and I feel like people who use Roku are more likely to look for these free services. They're a less expensive device, and then getting the free services really helps you cut down on cost for cord cutting. So I think it's awesome, and I'm not at all surprised to hear it. Also, love that Buzzard Game Show Network is so popular because, agreed, huge Press Your Luck fan. I love it.
It's awesome content. All right, curveball that I didn't put in the story. I've thought about adding it into a future story. One of the things he also manages, so Sinclair also owns the Tennis Channel, and Tennis Channel has its own subscription service for tennis fans. One of the things he pointed out is that when it came to subscribing to services, Apple TV for the Tennis Channel was more popular. Now, he didn't necessarily say streaming on it was more popular, but more people subscribe to iTunes than subscribe to Roku, etc.
Interesting.
But one of the things he wasn't really willing to talk about was subscribing through the tennis website. Because I find most like Roku, and he even kind of says, because I brought up the question, is maybe people who like tennis more likely to own an Apple TV, right? Is that maybe the cause? And he kind of brought up the idea that it could be that more people that use Roku are subscribing to the Tennis Channel through the tennis website and then using their login to sign into the Roku, sign into maybe even the Apple TV, and sign into the Fire TV rather than subscribing through iTunes. It does seem like Apple has locked a lot of people into that ecosystem, where Roku's now trying to get into that. Roku's like, hey, use our Roku channel to pay for these services. But Apple has been doing that so long that people are much more willing to do that versus going to the website, creating a separate account, and then logging in. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not really sure.
Curveball time.
I'm interested in why he didn't want to talk more about that. I wonder if they're kind of doing their own research and figuring that out.
Well, a lot of companies get very touchy about subscriber numbers because they are publicly traded, so they have to be careful about disclosing actual subscriber numbers. Now, saying like, hey, a lot of people are subscribing on Apple TV is a lot different than saying, 80% of our subscribers are here, or we have 5 million subscribers there, that kind of thing. There's actually, I think Netflix got in trouble for this because they announced by tweet once that like this show is our most popular show. Yeah. And somebody, right after they launched, somebody complained that like that should have been disclosed through like an FCC or whatever, FTC filing or something. And Netflix was like, what? We were just kind of pressed, talking about it.
Yeah, it's our social media intern.
Yeah, so I don't think anything ever came to it. I don't think they were ever ruled that they actually violated a rule there. It's just somebody was like, that should have been, now that you're publicly traded, set through proper channels. But
interesting. I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah. But I don't know. It makes perfect sense to me because Apple users are very much locked into the iTunes. They're very much, I think, pre-programmed to go subscribe there in a way where on Roku, I don't think of Roku as a way to pay for things as much as I think of Roku as I just log into my YouTube account. I log into my Netflix account, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And I think you're right. I think that Apple users, and we had some questions about this a while ago whenever we were saying that YouTube TV was more expensive if you paid through Apple instead of going through the service. So I think that people, like you said, are just so programmed to do that they don't even think about it. They just do it until someone brings up, like, it might be more expensive, maybe take another look. So, yeah, interesting, but I think you're spot on.
So I find this very interesting, the rise of, switching topics, of ad-supported free content. Pluto TV skyrocketing. Zumo TV skyrocketing. Stir coming on like a truck down the road. 1 million or 1 million users, I should say, because they're not paying. In 6 months, I mean, there are paid streaming services that would have cut off their left arm to say that. And we're seeing this. We're seeing the growth of ad-supported content. For all the concerns that you're going to have 10, 20 services, are ad-supported the ones where we're like, hey, get three paid services, and then fill in any gaps you don't want with all these. Do you think, where do you think it is? You think ad is the future, or you think paid is the future without ads?
It's interesting because we're hearing so much about these new services that are pay services, like the Disney Plus and the Apple TV Plus and all of this. But I feel like more and more, and I don't know if you've noticed this too, I feel like we're getting a lot more questions from readers lately about free services. They want to know which ones we like the most. They want to know if it's worth it. Of course it's worth it. It's free. So
definitely doesn't hurt.
If you don't mind switching between apps, I think that the free apps are the way to go.
I also wonder how much this has to do with good quality content coming to free services.
Yes, definitely.
I mean, Dora the Explorer running 24/7 on Pluto TV. My daughter, about 2 years ago when she was about 4, would have just gone crazy for unlimited Dora the Explorer. So there's definitely a lot of benefit to this stuff for core cars to take advantage. If you're not, highly recommend that you do take a moment, sit down, put these on the thing. Maybe you'll find something you like, maybe you won't, but hey, it's free. You're not out anything.
Yeah, I think too, for people who like cable, just for the fact that you can kind of mindlessly scroll through channels until you find something that you want, free services are awesome. If you go to Pluto and just kind of scroll through, you will find something that you want to watch. There are so many good movie channels. I just read a post about all of these new channels that they've released. You'll maybe find a channel dedicated to your favorite TV show playing 24/7, like classic Doctor Who. So I think that they're really good for that too.
There we go. Well, anything else to cover here before we move along?
No, I don't think so.
All right, why don't you grab the next one?
Sure, so let's talk about Hulu. Finally, we're seeing their new grid guide that we've all been so excited for. So Hulu's new grid guide. Yeah, so much. We've been hearing so many people ask. So the new grid guide has finally started rolling out, and this grid guide was announced at CES, which was in January, right? That's when we first started hearing about it?
Yeah, that's when I got the first demo of it back in January.
Yeah, and you posted about it, and people were like, this is awesome. We've been waiting for this. This is so great. Finally, they're changing their not super user-friendly interface. Awesome. So now it is July, and we are finally starting to see this, and people are so excited. So it's available right now on Hulu.com. So if you log in through your computer, if you're a Hulu with Live subscriber, you will be able to get this new grid guide. And with it, we are getting a 2-week guide, so you can see 2 weeks in the future. You'll also see when games are blacked out in your area, which is huge. And they also have collections based on genre, if you just want to scroll through and see what's on.
Definitely, which is a really cool feature there. I'm very excited about this for a few reasons. Like I've said, people have had cable for 30 years. They don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
They have a grid guide. They're used to a grid guide. This is what I had growing up. This is what I want now.
Yes.
I'm also excited when the on-demand update comes, where it turns in from like where you page through like one page is a show at a time, to where it's like more of a Netflix grid style, where there's like 7, 8, 9 or more episodes on the screen at once, where you pick from different movies or different TV shows. I think that will help too. Because I hear a lot, Hulu doesn't have anything. Well, Hulu actually has one of the biggest collections of movies and TV shows. It's just very hard to find what it is. And I really do like a lot about the Hulu user interface right now. It's beautiful. It definitely puts a lot of information on the screen when you find a TV show and more. But at the same time, it can be hard to find what you want. So
yeah, I'm guilty of saying that. I'm definitely guilty of saying I can't find anything to watch on Hulu, and it's just that I don't want to take the time to go and find it.
And I've told Hulu that. If you look at my very first interview, my very first review, because we got an early look at the new user interface of the live TV service before it launched. So you got to go back to a week or two before Hulu launched, where we posted our video. My main complaint was it took too many clicks to get to what we want. Mm-hmm. And that seems to be what they're addressing here. And there is a new team running this, and it seems like they really are working hard to make sure that, hey, we're going to get this right when it goes live. We would rather, and I actually kind of appreciate this, I kind of like it, we would rather wait. And I know it's painful because we're all like, give us this now, but we would rather wait, get it right, and have it roll out without issues. So they got it right on the website. Now they're going to go from device to device. The other thing is I'm always amazed how small these teams are. This is not like Hulu does not have 300 people pounding away at keyboards programming for this. There's probably 20 or less people, including like freelancers. So probably 10 or less like really core like developers and stuff. So it'd be very interesting to see what happens. The previous head of the Hulu department left last year. That was designing this. They hired somebody, and he was from Xbox. He's the guy who helped design the Xbox user interface. Now they hired a guy from TiVo to do this and go from there. I'm kind of excited. I wanted to kind of touch on one thing. I really like how they're doing this. They're not, they're not throwing out the baby with the bathwater kind of thing. They're keeping the best parts of the user interface. They're tweaking the things from the readers. They've definitely listened to the readers out there, and they're working really hard to make this a reader. I'm so used to saying readers. A subscriber-focused user interface. So I'm very excited about it. And actually, for the guy who created the first one, this grid guide was actually something he started before he left. So they had identified very quickly that this was a change they needed to make. And again, let's do it right. Let's not screw it up and go from there. So
I agree. I think Hulu is just such a, I guess I want to say user-friendly. They just really care about their subscribers, and they want to create the best possible experience for subscribers. So I think that they did a great job of listening to feedback and responding to it.
Definitely. So now, when this is going to roll I am having a cold today. I'm taking some Sudafed, and that seems to be completely frying my brain today. When this will roll to Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, we don't know. But they say the next couple months. So fingers crossed soon. And hopefully it's whatever device you may use will be first. No promises, though. Anything else you want to cover here?
I guess just if you do have a Hulu with live subscription and you want to see what it's going to be like, just log in on your computer and give it a try, because it's very cool. It's very well designed.
All right, let's get some bad news now. According to a report from The Atlantic, The Athletic, the NFL Sunday Ticket is reportedly going to stick with AT&T until the end of the 2020-2021 NFL season. Currently, the NFL has until the end of this off-season, so before the start of the 2019-2020 football season, to tell AT&T that they intend to cancel their NFL Sunday Ticket a year early. Now, according to reports on The Athletic, that they've heard sources that the NFL intends to leave it with DirecTV through the end of this season and next season, and then they would kind of move into a streaming direct-to-consumer type option. which could maybe the NFL saying, hey, can we really build something that's going to be compelling in that time frame, and with just a year to start build it and have it ready for the following football season. So that may be part of the wait here. NFL, though, has made it very clear that they do intend to bring this direct-to-consumer, cut out the need for DirecTV in an effort to open up the NFL to more people out there. So I know a lot of people are hoping NFL Sunday Ticket would come to more cord cutters without the need of DirecTV. For now, that may not be. No matter what, that's not happening this year. Even if the NFL tomorrow said we're going to take the out in our contract and cancel early, they still need to complete this year with AT&T. So keep that in mind. But it does seem, even according to this report, it does seem that the long-term goal here, the goal for what happens next, is to walk away from AT&T's exclusivity at the end of the 2021-2022. That's a big mouthful to say. 2022 contract. So I don't know. You live in Ohio. I'm a Detroit. I grew up a Detroit Lions fan. I think we're both in with NFL teams that aren't necessarily the greatest in the world.
You could say that.
But I mean, what do you think, Jess?
This is really interesting. I would love to see the NFL Network and just the ability to watch these games come to more streaming services. So I guess my question was, is this a money issue, or is it that they want to reach more people, or what's driving all of this decision making?
All of the above. I'm sure. I mean, DirecTV, I can't remember what it was, but it was like an eye-popping number when DirecTV, before AT&T bought them, paid for exclusivity rights to NFL Sunday Ticket. It was like, let's just keep backing it. It's not like one armored truck pulled up, but like DirecTV sent like a fleet of like 30 armored trucks full of $100 bills to the NFL and said, we want that exclusivity, please.
Right, sure.
They paid, it was a lot of money. AT&T is locked in this contract, so AT&T doesn't need to pay anything more right now. They're just like, hey, we have this contract because we bought DirecTV. And a big reason when they bought DirecTV was NFL's Ticket. To give you a perspective here, Game of Thrones, remember all the excitement? Game of Thrones is just huge, 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 huge. Mm-hmm. Game of Thrones at its peak would have only been the 7th most viewed football game last year.
Wow.
Just to give you an idea of how big football is. Even with football numbers going down slightly, they have rebounded slightly. NFL games is just, it blows everything else out of the water. It really does. NFL is looking at the success of NBA and other leagues to saying, hey, look, in NBA's openness of streaming it to cord cutters and non-cable subscribers is making them a lot of money. Yeah. We want in on that too. Problem is they have this contract, and they could jump out of it now, but I think it's a reasonable one to say, hey, would we really be ready? Do we want to launch something that doesn't work very well on day one? Or do we let DirecTV finish the next 2 years, have 2 years to develop something so that it's ready to go? I think they could do it in a year because a lot of the technology already exists. I think we're kind of at the point now where a lot of the early issues with live TV streaming, Sling TV, PlayStation View, DirecTV, Hulu, etc., have really kind of thudded through this, let's say. They can't, it's always tough being the first person through the glass ceiling of streaming. Right. And once you're through it, though, it's a lot easier for everybody behind them to kind of go through and say, oh, thanks for, smashing your head against a wall for an hour until it broke for us. We'll just kind of walk through after you did the hard work. So it'll be interesting. I don't know. I hope they jump out because I would love to get NFL Sunday Ticket without needing DirecTV.
Yeah, definitely.
At the same time, I've learned to live without it.
Yeah. I think, too, the NFL, obviously, they have the resources. So if they wanted to do this, I feel like this would be the company that could absolutely, within a year, make it happen. I mean,
how hard would it be for them to hire away some MLB .TV,
exactly.
some NBA League Pass, somebody from Hulu, somebody from Netflix, somebody from Sling or something?
Get a team together and make it happen.
I mean, the NFL of all the sports ones has the money to call, hey, head product designer at YouTube TV, how you doing? What are you making right now? We'll pay you 30% more. Come on over tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens sometimes when these things happen. But even still, it's not something that happens overnight. It really isn't. Sling TV, when we interviewed the former president of Sling TV, the one that launched it, told us that 2 years before Sling TV publicly announced they started working on it. So it took them 2 years to build Sling TV. Mm-hmm. I think Hulu was at least a year. I've heard rumors of that time frame and more. So it takes longer than you may think to get these services launched. So, but I think that we kind of beat this story down. Anything else you want to cover?
I don't think so. Go Browns.
I won't hold that against you. No, it's good. You did just trade away Jabril Peppers, so I guess I don't have to worry about being a Browns fan anymore. All right, next story up.
Yeah, so let's talk about HDHomerun. They just launched a Roku channel, which is now available in the Roku channel store. And this is awesome news for HDHomerun owners, people who love this. And I know that we have a lot. We hear about this a ton, especially on the Facebook page. So last month, Cord Cutters News broke the news that Silicon Dust, which is the parent company of the HDHomerun, was working on a Roku channel, and now it is official. It is still in beta testing, but before you could only try it with an unofficial Roku channel, and now they have made it official. So you can now go to the Roku channel store, get the channel, and use that channel to easily access your HDHomerun through your Roku.
Yeah, this was one of the main complaints about the HDHomerun. Number one, it's a cord-cutting device. It also does cable, too. You can get a cable card and put those into an HDHomerun if you want. But hey, the number one cord-cutting device is Roku. We've seen that time and time again in our surveys. We've seen things like Stir saying, hey, Roku, number one device by far. Yep. But HDHomerun didn't support it when many of the HDHomerun competitors did. So this is really great. It opens up the HDHomerun to a huge catalog of customers out there that may have passed by because, hey, I'm a majority Roku owner. And why would I get the HDHomerun when it doesn't work it without needing to get like a Plex server or this or that workaround, etc. HDHomerun said, well, Rokus don't really support what we want. That changed a while back, and now finally we have HDHomerun on Roku. Yeah. Now it is a beta, so they're very clear, like, hey, we're still kind of developing this. Just keep that in mind. You might find a glitch. Let us know about it. We'll get it fixed.
Yeah, I think that this is interesting because, well, it's great because we're at a point now if you have a device or a streaming service and it's not compatible with the device that you're using, you're kind of knocking yourself out of the game. So we saw this with like YouTube TV not being supported by Fire TV devices. And people were saying, well, if I can't use it on my Fire TV, I'm not going to use it. Yeah. And I think that that's true now because whenever you do have all of these options, if something isn't working with your device or with your streaming service, something's not compatible, you're not going to use it. So it's very, very important, I think, for HDHomerun to have this compatibility now. Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest. The reality is there are plenty of competitors out there. YouTube TV. Well, I'm just going to go with PlayStation. I'm going to go with Hulu. I'm going to go with Sling. Oh, HDHomerun doesn't work on Roku? I'm going to go get a Tableau DVR, or I'm going to get a Clearstream, whatever, or an Air TV. So this idea that people will go replace their streaming devices for yours, some people may, but I think the vast majority won't.
Especially with a company like Roku that people just love so much. If you have a Roku and you love it, you're not going to switch.
I find that it's almost like video game systems, like back in the 90s. Like, I'm a Sega Genesis guy. We had an NES. My cousin got a Sega Genesis. I fell in love with it. We got a Sega Genesis. And it was like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. Which one's better? And people weren't crossing over. Mostly because mom and dad wouldn't pay for two.
Absolutely.
But I do find that a lot of people are like, I'm a Roku user. I love Rokus. I'm a Fire TV user. I love it. I'm an Apple, Android TV, etc. People are much more connected to their device, I find sometimes, than the streaming services. Mm-hmm. So, warning to anybody who thinks that you could launch a streaming service and just people would get rid of the Rokus to get an Apple TV or get rid of their Apple TV to get a Roku. I don't think they will. Not in the droves. You'll find somebody. There's always like that straw man, right? I found this one person in Montana who will do it. So everybody must do it. And I do get that. You can find some, but I think the vast majority won't.
I agree. Yep, the customer loyalty is definitely there for streaming devices.
All right. So I'd love to hear from you, though. Do you have the HD Home Run running on Roku? What do you think? I've played around with it a little bit. Not quite as much just because I just haven't had the time, to be honest, the last about week or so to really dive into this. So let me know. I'll really love to hear from you on if you like it, what if you thought of the beta. It's beta, so just keep that in mind. There. Leave us a comment. Let us know. All right. Next story. So this one's mine, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. Warning, scammers are targeting cord cutters. This is something I've seen a growing trend from, and it's a couple of old scams. They're just moving on to cord cutting because it's like, hey, a lot of people are cord cutters, so let's go after them. A few examples. Number one, the classic phone call. You probably heard it. Hi, this is Microsoft Tech Support. We've detected a virus on your computer. Please give us control over your computer so we can fix that for you. Or pay us $800. Oh, whoops! Look, you gave us control, and suddenly you have a ransomware in your computer.
Crazy.
I don't know how that happened. So we're seeing scams like that now going after Roku, AT&T, Apple TV, Amazon, etc. And how this basically works is somebody calls you and says, "Hi, we're from Roku. We've detected that your Roku is out of date and you really need to update it because it's causing issues for you and for us," they'll sometimes say. Now go to your computer, and then from there it's basically the exact same as the Microsoft scam. AT&T, I've heard some targeting AT&T customers with DirecTV, etc. These companies are not going to call you and do that. I think the more effective version of these scams are the emails, those blanket emails. I get them all the time from Bank of America. Your account has been locked. I'm like, I don't have a Bank of America account. But I do get it. You know, Bank of America is one of the largest banks. So they have a better than even chance of just shotgunning an email out to everybody that, you know, a good chunk of these people are actually going to have a Bank of America account. So keep that in mind. And a good number of these people are actually going to have a Roku, a YouTube account, etc. So when you get these emails, when you get these phone calls, be like, this doesn't seem right. If it's a phone call, what I've heard from many people, as soon as they start putting any pushback, the person hangs up on them. Because they're just like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to go on to what's probably a more gullible person, for lack of a better term.
Yes.
For emails, don't click the links. Just go to Roku.com and sign in there and check whatever. But Roku's auto update, Roku is not going to be emailing you about a update that's required because Roku automatically does it. Same with the Apple TV, same with the Fire TV. I don't know. You really just need to use your same common sense when it comes to these kind of things that you would with your bank account. I don't know. Have you received any of these? I mean, maybe not Roku, but any of these type of emails or phone calls?
I got one. I've been getting just a ton of phone calls since I moved. So I think that my phone number has just been more out in the world lately. I did get one saying that my social security number was compromised and that my identity had been shut off was the phrase that they used. And I said, excuse me, what?
You have lost your name. You are an
unperson now. I have a voicemail saved on my phone because it made me laugh so hard. They said that my identity had been shut off. And I said, wow, that's really interesting. I'm an internet personality now. You can't shut off my identity. I'm everywhere.
There you go.
That was a really interesting one, but I have not gotten any about streaming services or devices.
I had one that almost got me recently, and I was traveling, and somebody, I don't know if my bank had been compromised or what, but somebody called and said they were from my bank, and that we detected activity, some weird activity in another state. I was like, oh, well, I'm actually in Michigan right now. Okay. And then it just kind of started getting a little weird. And because they wanted to text me this or that, and they wanted me to text them and do other stuff. And I went, okay, this is no. But for a second, because this was for a business account, the personal account, that bank does do things like call if it detects like, hey,
sure,
out-of-state activity. So it was a very believable one. So they're definitely getting a lot better at these scams. So be very careful. And thankfully, they didn't get anything. I kind of picked up on real quick that like, hey, this is weird. And what they did was kind of weird too. Is when I started pushing back on it, it started like crackling, and like it was an old-fashioned disconnect where like they were on an old-fashioned analog cell phone. You know how you kind of get out of range and it gets all crackly, broken up, all and that's what it sounded like. So that must have been the particular thing. I did, out of abundance of caution, go change like my username and my passwords and everything, because they were like, can you give us your phone number? What's the code we're about? I was like, okay, this is weird. Why don't you know my phone number?
Right.
So, but yeah, so be careful. Scammers are getting more intelligent. I think they're catching on that people are getting used to the bank frauds. Mm-hmm. And now they're looking around, where else could we get people? Oh, well, look, half of all streaming players in the United States are Roku. So let's target Roku. We saw this with tech support scams, right? Pay us for tech support. They pretend to be Roku, but they won't help you unless you pay them. Keep that in mind. All right. Anything else for this story?
No, I guess just watch out, especially older people. I feel like they really target older people who might be more used to giving information over the phone than some of us. So just be on the lookout, and if you have older relatives especially, let them know not to give anyone information.
Definitely. And invest in a cell phone or whatever. Disconnect their whole phone or whatever.
Yes.
All right. Let's go to the last story of today before we get into questions.
So let's talk about cord-cutting stories that we can look forward to in the second half of this year. We are halfway through 2019, and there are some big things that are coming up, potentially. Some of them have been confirmed, some have not. But here are the 5 that we are talking about right now. So we're about to see new Air TV devices from Sling TV, offering Android TV with a streaming stick. We will be seeing new Roku TVs and likely new Roku players coming later this fall. That's when they usually release their new products. We will be seeing YouTube TV and YouTube Kids coming back to the Fire TV, hopefully soon. People are very excited about this. We also know that Pluto TV has plans to expand to markets around the world. And one thing that I really noticed about this is that they aren't in Canada yet, and hopefully they will be soon. Is that true? Pluto TV is not in Canada?
I believe so. They're in parts of Europe now, but not Canada.
Oh, man. Well, they need to get on that. Come on, Pluto. And also, we could be seeing some new Fire TV products. They haven't updated their products yet this year, for the most part, so we're hoping that that will be coming soon as well.
Yeah, so here's the question to you, Jess. What are your predictions? Not things we know are going to happen, but what are your predictions since we're halfway through 2019? What's the second half predictions?
I feel like we're about to see a lot of stories in mainstream news about streaming fatigue. I feel like that's going to be huge because we're about to see the launch of a lot of these new streaming services. We're about to see Disney, Apple TV Plus, the HBO Max, which we had been referring to as Warner Media. I think that whenever these launch, we're really going to see a ton of stories about streamer fatigue and how expensive cord cutting is. But I think that people are going to respond very well to those streaming services. I feel like they have some great original content coming, and I think that people are really going to be into them.
Yeah, let's talk about cord cutting stream fatigue. Let's not forget about, $60, $70 in fees from your cable company. But that's another story. A couple things I would watch out for is more streaming services to launch. We know about the ones now. It's kind of a gold rush. I mean, this is kind of classic gold rush, California. There's gold in California. Everybody jumps in the wagon, sells everything, beelines it to California with the dream that they could be the next big gold finder. Flip this upside down. Netflix, Hulu, Amazon. They're making, some pretty big impressions in the world of TV. Now everybody's like, ooh, we could be the next Netflix, Hulu, or Amazon. Let's gold rush into streaming. Yeah. And let's be honest, there's very little bar of entry into streaming. So I do expect to see many more streaming services try to launch. Flip this around, though, I expect many streaming services to fail. Maybe not this year, but definitely next year.
Yeah,
and that's not because cord cutting is bad. It's just that there's more services than the market can support. So I would not be surprised at all to see a handful of services fail. Wouldn't even be surprised to see a live TV streaming service in the next 3 years go under. Maybe a big one go under. Just because there's more of them on the way. If T-Mobile ever launches their streaming service, and more. And let's be honest, there's more than the market can handle. Just the way it is. It do need 10 different live TV streaming services. Maybe 5 or 6 could be successful, but will 10 be successful? That's my only question. So yeah, those are my predictions. I'd love to hear from you. If you're listening to this, leave us a comment over at corecarsnews.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, leave us a comment down below. What's your predictions for the second half of 2019? And maybe into 2020? Let us know.
Yeah, post a little crystal ball emoji beside your predictions.
And if you're right, you don't really get anything, but you get the honor of knowing you were right.
Absolutely. Bragging rights. Huge.
There you go. All right, Jess, do you have a couple questions for us?
I do. So I actually pulled these questions specifically from the Q&A session last night. If you did not tune in on YouTube to the live Q&A, every week Luke answers tons of your questions. Tons of these questions. So I pulled a couple from there, and they're also questions that we've been seeing on the Facebook page and in emails. So the first one is, what are your opinions about AT&T resellers as internet providers? People have been asking specifically about Toast.net, but also any of these other resellers.
I think they're a great option. They they may look a little higher because they don't hide as many things and fees. They don't have like a device rental fee, etc. Many of them. I'm not sure about all of them, but many of them. But overall, I find they're actually, a lot of people tell me they're cheaper, and you get to use US-based customer service instead of contacting AT&T's call center and wherever it may be. You're contacting a US-based customer service is a big one many of them promote. Now, about almost 2 years ago, I contacted a bunch of them to be like, hey, let's work together. We're cord cutting, you sell internet, it's kind of a natural fit. Toast.net was the one that got back to us, and the ones that got back to us that was like really all about like, hey, we love cord cutting. Let's work with you to promote, our internet to cord cutters. So we promoted them a lot through our partnership that came about through that, and I've been very impressed with the Toast.net people. With that said, there's many other good ones also. DSL Extreme is probably the other most well-known one out there, but there's others. So I would say, shop around. The great thing about Toast.net, no data cap. AT&T, data cap, or you pay $30 more. They pay more. I don't know exactly what it is off the top of my head. So I'll really consider, factor everything in. The no device rental, what you see is what you pay, and no data cap, where you don't have to pay for unlimited data. So keep that in mind. And and maybe I need to explain what AT&T reseller is real quick.
Oh yeah.
But AT&T reseller is part of the deal when AT&T, where the government broke up Ma Bell, and AT&T kind of came from that, is AT&T had to allow other companies to use their network to sell internet. So these DSL Extremes, these Toast.net, etc., are basically running on the AT&T network, plus some other companies. Many of these have partnered with other companies also to sell their internet. They supply the customer service, but AT&T, and they also pay towards the maintenance of the lines and everything. But AT&T is the actual one that owns the line that runs to your home. So it's the same internet, just from a different company with no data cap, no device rentals, etc. So hope that explains everything.
All right, let's move to the second question. People are asking like crazy, is Nexstar coming back to AT&T? Do we know when? Do we have any details about this?
Yes, Nexstar locals will be coming. I know today marks 2 weeks, I believe, since they've been offline. We don't know when. It's kind of one of those arguments right now. AT&T is saying, hey, we have fewer subscribers. People are watching TV less as they stream more, but Nexstar wants more money. So AT&T is like, never mind. So AT&T is investing in, like, Dish is doing it where they give out antennas. AT&T is saying, hey, use low-cast if you live in a low-cast market. So I think they will come. These are not unusual. Having a 2-week blackout is not unusual. It's just the reality of the fact that cord cutting is squeezing these companies. AT&T doesn't want to pay as much. And at the same time, local TV companies still want more money. So it's kind of a back and forth issue here. But yes, I do expect them to come back. I don't know when. It may not be soon. It could be tomorrow morning.
Good answer.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up. Do you have any recommendations this week?
I do. So I didn't mention one of my other Amazon Prime Day purchases, which was one of the premium channels. I subscribed to Showtime again through Amazon Prime channels. And I wanted to mention this because this deal is still happening. So you can still go to Amazon Prime channels and get some of these premium channels for half off. This is still going on. So I subscribed to Showtime for just under $6 a month. And I restarted watching the show Shameless for the second, maybe third time.
Yeah, I'll put a link to that down below because half off a ton of services right now.
Yeah, it's an awesome deal.
Just the big ones: Stars, Showtime, CBS All Access, Lifetime Movie Club, MTV Hits, PBS Living, PBS Masterpiece, and PBS Kids, all half off for 3 months. Yep. And then full price thereafter. All right, last chance to you. This has kind of become the unofficial start to football season for me. So last chance to you tonight drops on Netflix. I know I'll be watching this weekend. As we prepare for 2 weeks from now, NFL season kicks off, preseason.
Yeah.
Football a month away almost, a little over a month away. I get it, but football is here, folks. Last chance to you. Check it out. This should be a very interesting season. So check that out. All right, so that is it for the week. I hope you have a fantastic week. Please hit that subscribe button. Hit that thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're downloading an MP3, maybe consider subscribing to us on TuneIn or Apple Podcasts or wherever you may get your podcasts. So I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. We will be back next week with our Cord Cutting This Week breakdown. And I hope you have a fantastic week, everybody. Take care.
Bye.